Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the show. Today, I have a very good friend of mine on. I've known him for almost 10 years now. He's basically like family and like my younger brother. He's one of the coaches at Axioms. He's actually been coaching for 8 years, and he's been doing jujitsu for 1.5. So please welcome my guest, Brandon Everts.
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Nothing. You know what's crazy is since I've known you for what, 9, 10 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like 2012-ish.
Yeah, so that was LA Fitness. It's funny because I knew your brother Brock, and then when I first saw you, you were a skinny kid with an afro.
Oh, for sure.
Dude, like you were
get on me all the time.
you were a skinny kid with an afro with board shorts and flip-flops on all the time. And then I think like a good time span went by, and then when did I see you? I saw you at did you work at LA Fitness?
No, I would work out with you guys.
Yeah.
Remember? I'd wear the wife beaters.
Oh, yeah.
Classic Midwest.
I remember
Yeah,
that.
so he would work out with us, and then there was this time span with like I think I didn't see you for like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I believe so.
And then I saw you, and you got jacked.
Dude,
I saw you. I was like, what the hell?
I came up, man.
Dude, what like in between that time frame, what happened? From the time that we started working out, it was me, you, and Brock.
Because what year did you stop working at LA Fitness?
2014, I believe.
Okay, because we had a little crossover. I remember you were kind of on your way out when I got hired in there.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just working out. Like, so I started training myself back when I was like, like 14. Like, we're just talking about the, dumbbells in the room, doing biceps, triceps, and then, I got into track and field, in high school, and that was like I didn't even want to do that. Brogan was a good sprinter. He's gifted.
No
my mom
shit.
my mom was national level sprinter, super talented.
Okay.
Brogan and Brock have always been more like of the athletic type, but we always grew up like we played little league for like 6-8 years growing up, and just our mom needed to keep us busy. Single mom, 3 boys, so I got kind of thrown into track and field just as something to do, extracurricular, and then I was in drumline. I was in music in high school, so I wasn't even really into the sports a lot, but I started sprinting, track and field, and then that's how I got into the weights. So weight room after school every day, started hitting that.
Okay.
But dude, I don't even remember how much I weigh when I
Dude,
I was like 140s, and when
that's what I weigh right now. Dude,
yeah, but 5'10", come on, man. I had like collarbones sticking out, sunken chest,
remember that.
Pirate's dream. So, I think when I got into my freshman year of high school, I was like $115. So like just tiny. So it's been an arduous journey getting to where I am now, but
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Did that kind of inspire you to get your cert and get into training and be a coach, or like what happened in between that?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely fell in love with that. Like, it kept me out of trouble, kept me busy. It kind of taught me like that sense of doing something every day and having discipline with it. So I got into the training. Honestly, I went to Fullerton Junior College after high school.
Okay.
Had no clue what I wanted to do. I'm like, all right, general ed, let's go. So I did that. I lasted like 2 months maybe. And then I'm like, nope, I'm dropping out of high school.
Okay.
I was lifting weights a lot. Like, there was times I specifically remember skipping my classes to go work out. And I dreaded going to classes. So I think the one that did me in was like an online stats class. And I was like, no. So I got my tuition money back. I sold my books and did that. And that paid for my training cert. And at the time I was still just lifting weights at LA Fitness, right? So, and actually I worked in the juice bar for a little bit too.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah.
Wait, who was the guy that hired you?
Emed, was it?
The bald guy?
Yeah, I think it was Emed. Shout out Emed, man. He got me into boxing too.
That guy was funny.
He held pads for me a couple times, and so I could start doing some like boxing
be
with
in front of the mic. Yeah.
Yeah. So Yeah, he actually got me into boxing a little bit. Super nice guy, you know, got me the job part-time at the juice bar. And then I don't know if you remember Ryan Stewart. Yeah, shout out Ryan Stewart.
I don't know
I think
about
he moved
that.
back
I
to
don't know about
Kentucky.
that.
I think so.
Dude,
Yeah, that guy.
guy's
Well, so he was the PTD at the time, the director. So
yeah.
he would come get a drink from me at the juice bar every day. And I kept, you know, I was in his ear like, you know, every week, like, hey, when a position opens up for training, like I just got my certs, you know, I'm looking to work full time. I dropped out of college, you know, hit me up. So finally he gave me a shot. They hired me on and I was training. I mean, this was when I was 18 already. Like I was already kind of young. And then that's where I got started, you know, put in 2 years at LA Fitness. And you know how it was over there. It was like,
Dude, I think when you work in a corporate gym, it's such dog shit. Like, first of all, this kind of pisses me off because like the information that they give, like, okay, first, if you're a coach, it's a good place to start. Like, it's good to get your feet wet and then put a couple years in there so you build up your resume. And then you're like, okay, let's see what else I can do. Most likely, you'll end up in a private gym or you'll go on your own and try to do your own thing and rent space from somebody else. But the shit that the salespeople pitch to the potential clients, like they had a thing where like, yeah, you can turn fat into muscle. It's like, no, you dumb motherfucker. Like it doesn't work that way. Like you lose fat and you build muscle. Nothing turns into anything else. Like just the information that they gave you was such dog shit.
You remember those sales pitches,
dude,
man. Come on.
I'm like, what? And half the sales guys had no idea what they were talking about. They were good selling, but the information that they were giving towards the client, like LA Fitness, I don't know about 24 because I've never worked there, but LA Fitness is horrible.
They're down the alley, yeah.
It's horrible.
100%.
I'll fucking call them out.
Yeah.
They're horrible with the information that they're giving their, like the potential people that want training. The information, it's on a script. And it's a horrible script. And I'm like, I read it and I'm like, okay, you remember Zach? And what was his Zach Shearer?
Zach Shearer.
And then what was his friend's name?
Mel.
Mel.
Yeah.
So we all three looked at it, and Mel's like, "Dude, there's something wrong here." And I never triggered. And I'm like, "Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right."
They quickly pointed that out. I remember when they moved, and were you still working when they got hired on at LA Fitness? Yeah. So they were like onboarding, and I remember they tried to even take like the LA Fitness staff and like the trainers through like a little boot camp one time, and because Zach wanted to like overhaul the whole system, but again, it's the corporate gym model. I think a big problem with that too was like the just the turnover of the sales staff.
Well,
like,
dude,
we would see a different guy every week. Some schmuck.
That's what it's funny. I had like 10 bosses in the amount of time I was there, and I was there for 4 years.
Yeah, I only had 2. I got lucky. You know, Ryan got out of there. I think he was. I don't know what happened. I think he was like faking some appointments in the system or something like that. You know how those projections were. Like you were just hustling. You know, that's all it was. It was like Wolf of Wall Street down there,
dude.
Man.
It's all about numbers, and if you don't hit your numbers about how many people you're supposed to see a day, they're gonna call you and be like, "Hey, what's going on? X, Y, and Z." You know, kind of stuff like that. That's all they basically cared about was numbers. Yeah, but like, dude, I kind of got that whole motto. And then after LA Fitness, you moved to Equinox, right?
After some downtime, like I totally agree with you. Side note that the corporate gym model is something good for like trainers who want to just get their feet wet, right? Because I mean, how many appointments were we booking in a day? I mean, it was, dude, half-hour session.
Bullshit,
right?
bullshit.
Yeah, complete. It was
bullshit,
like, hey, how you doing? All right, let's do push-pull. All right, see ya. You know, that was it. And it was, dude, I remember we were doing like 14 to 16 appointments a day, 14, 16 people or so. I mean, I was doing like the split shift, right?
Yeah.
They had me Monday through Friday split shift because I wasn't going to school, and then Saturday morning. So they loaded me up, and dude, there was so many people, you know, and it was good because a lot of personalities, got my feet wet, and just instantly got that exposure. But I didn't go right to Equinox. I actually got terminated from LA Fitness.
What?
Yeah. So my second boss, it was a woman named Nikki. You remember her?
I remember. Yes.
So I don't know if she was the PTD when you were still there.
Yeah, she was.
Yeah. Terrible, dude. So, so she moved from like Baltimore or something. started out as a personal training counselor, right? And she would sell PT just left and right. Like she had a way with words. She would hard sell
Sales.
people
Yeah. Sales.
into like big contracts too. So I would see these clients for their, first week or so, and they tell me that they signed up for, 3 days a week, 4 days a week right off the bat. And then I start engaging in conversation and get their exercise history, chatting it
Yeah.
up with them, getting to know them, and then figure out, man, this guy should only be training maybe 2 times a week. Or maybe, they're so busy that, they can't train that often, or, you know, we have to progress them a lot slower. So I would kind of tell them, like, look, maybe we should do this. I think that would look a little bit better with your schedule, maybe train twice a week. So, and I would do that within their, within like the bounds of their contract to where they could like uh, adjust their pricing, right?
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah,
before it was like there was like that cutoff period, right? Where it was
yeah.
like if they didn't change their contract within like 14 days, then you're shit out of luck or something. And then the sales counselors, they would get all the money, and it would that's all it was. So I would tell my clients and give them the lowdown and have them adjust their contract just to make it more affordable. And these were people who were telling me like, look, I don't have all this disposable income, this, that, and the other. So I was trying to make it work for them. And then she was losing out on some commission because of that, and that's how she got promoted to the director position. It's not based on skill, it's because their numbers went up. Yeah, 100%. So she, so she got promoted, and then she was losing out on commission, and she was getting heat from like the higher ups, like Paoli and this, that, and the other. And she actually put me on a week suspension and said that I was not showing up to meetings and stuff, which we never had meetings. When did we have meetings?
We never had meetings. We if we had a meeting, it was like a one-on-one meeting, and it was maybe for 20 minutes. It's like a slap on the hand, and that's basically it. And he's like, oh, you got a client? Okay, you got to go. Like, we never really had team meetings.
100%. So she put me on suspension on that basis. Oh, and she said I was like canceling appointments and this, that, and the other. And then that was on a Saturday. And she called me up the next day on the Sunday and was like, hey, it was the decision of corporate and the, higher up. So we have to terminate you. Your final check's already been issued to your house. Basically it is what it is, see ya. And it's because she hated my guts at this point. And I wasn't fighting back at that point. I think I emailed Paoli, and he never got back to me. I think because
clown.
Yeah, and their I'm pretty sure their LA Fitness's HR was owned by the company, so like they never did any like cross referencing. That it was weird. So they never got back to me, and I'm just like, well, I'm just gonna do this on my own. So I was renting out of a 4-bedroom house, living with Rich. You remember Rich?
Oh, dude, I remember that guy.
Yes, Rich. So we were living out of that house on Bellbrook near my grandparents' place. Remember that place? So I was training people out of that house. Yeah. So I was training people out of that house, and I got lucky. I think even you sent me Paula's dad, Rich.
Yeah, Richard.
You sent me him back in the day, and so that's how we got that relationship. But so I kept that up for like a year, and just realized how tough it was to market for yourself and keep that up. I mean, I had maybe 5 or 6 active, clients that kept me going, but I kept that up for about a year,
Okay, and then
that's when I moved to Equinox. Yeah, so that was in almost 2015, I believe. And I had never heard of Equinox, didn't know what it was. I just had heard, like I was researching gyms one day, and it looked kind of high class. So I'm like, okay, like I'm going to apply here. And it looked like state of the art. I'm like, oh man, I can have a career here. Like it was crazy. So I did that. And then, I was in that next week. They got back to me, and I was in an open house interview for my first interview, like 15 people in there.
What's that like, the interview process for Equinox?
So that was the stage 1, was this open house interview, right? So they had like 15 people, like potential candidates, right? Come in, and have you ever been in to the Equinox? So
no.
I was in the Sports Club Irvine location, which was their largest location nationwide. It's huge. It's ridiculous in there.
I've seen it, but I've never been inside.
Yeah, dude, it's It's ridiculous. I walked into this joint and I'm like, what the fuck is this, man? There's a lobby, there was a cafe. I'm looking at a cafe, and behind the cafe is a restaurant with a grand piano. And then there's like a pro shop right there with all the,
They have
all
like
the,
they have a Lululemon store and like a Nike store in there, I think, right?
absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
That's so funny.
So I walked in there and I'm like, okay, super intimidating. I got my little suit on and my slacks, and they bring us into this conference room,
Okay.
right? And it's just the whole spiel, like, hey, everyone stand up one at a time, give some of your background, education, tell us a little bit about yourself, woo, woo, woo. So did that, and I think I just had enough experience. Everyone in there and like had 4-year bachelor degree in kinesiology. Everyone in there was a kines major looking for like their next move, like their career. So that was a trip to me, you know. But it was actually funny, kind of by chance. I accidentally left my bag that I had, like a gym bag,
Okay.
and that I kept some stuff in, and I actually left that in the conference room. And one of the managers ends up texting me because they had my number, and he's like, "Hey man, I think this is your bag. You left it in the conference room." So I was still in the parking garage. I ran up real quick and ended up chatting it up with one of the managers there. The PT manager, his name was Joel Mackis. Shout out Joel.
That's funny.
Good guy, really good guy. We connected a lot.
Okay.
And so it was just by chance, like we cracked a couple jokes. He's like, "Oh, I thought it was a bomb. You're trying to, leaving the building, this, that, and the other." So we chop it up for like 10 minutes. And I end up leaving to go home, and he ends up texting me a follow-up text and like, "Oh, thanks for coming out, man. Like, it was good getting to know you a little bit." So that was just by luck. And I think that's what really kind of pushed me ahead, interview wise, like who they were looking at, because I made that connection. So that's kind of always how it's been.
Okay. So then after that, they decided to take you on, or what was the process?
Yeah, the next part of the interview process was a one-on-one interview with like one of the sales managers and then one of the PT managers, right? Because they had multiple PT managers. So it was a one-on-one, and they just asked you like kind of personal questions and like just questions about, oh, what would you do in this scenario and this one, yada yada. If you could be like a type of food, what would you be? Just weird, yeah, just like weird, like seeing what you're gonna respond with. I still remember that one. Man, I forget what I said. Man, I probably said,
dude,
I don't
like
know
if
what
I said, I'd be like, "Hey, I'm gonna be a 3-layer cake,"
because I'm multi-dimensional and I'm savory.
Oh
so
my fucking God.
I forgot. I probably
that.
said steak and potatoes or something. But so that went pretty well. That was kind of nerve-wracking. And then they called me back for a third interview, and the third interview was like a practical interview where basically all the rest of the candidates went out on the floor with all the PT managers, and we had to take them through a mock workout. So the practical interview, that was the one where I was
That's
like,
standard. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was like, perfect. So did the practical. I think I remember coaching some deadlifts. I got lucky because they picked the movements for us. And I was like going real hard on like just like the basic compound movements, bread and butter.
Yeah, that's it.
And I had to coach the deadlift. I'm like, yes, I'm gonna smoke it. So I did it. I did like a little hip airplane warm-ups on single leg, a little hip rotation for the dynamic warm-up, and boom. And so that's how I got hired on, and
rest is history.
Rest is history, man.
And then what, you quit and then went to Axioms?
Yeah. So I was like, I put in almost 2 years at Equinox, like a year and a half. But the drive was terrible.
Yeah.
I got 2 carpool tickets.
Oh shit.
During that, I was like, I had to be at work at like 6 a.m. and you know me, man.
Yeah.
With my time. So racked up a couple carpool tickets, and it was just really tough because not only did you have to do all your own prospecting there,
so they don't give you clients?
Not at all. No.
Okay.
So basically how it would work, when you first get hired on, the trainers who aren't technically full-time, they are assigned what's called floor shifts. And these floor shifts, it could be anywhere from like a 3 to like a 4, maybe even 5-hour shift, where you're basically walking around the fitness floors, because they had like multiple floors. They had like the rooftop area, they had the cardio level, and then they had
Okay.
the strength training level. So we'd walk through the levels and just clean up, right? So we had a certain way, everything has a certain place to go, everything gets put back. So we would pick up the training equipment and keep the areas clean. And that's where we used an opportunity to like prospect and get to
Mm.
know some of the members
Right,
and,
right.
oh man, those are some nice shoes. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Like,
Yeah.
what are you hitting today?
Yeah.
So that's how we did our prospecting. And then occasionally, like if you picked up extra shifts for people, or if you were killing it at work, like they would give you leads every once in a while. They'd kind of use leads for like bait, like,
Right,
all right,
right.
whoever picks up this shift, I'll give you 3 leads. Most of them were kind of bunk, but whatever. And so we would email, do the calls and try to set up assessments. And then, you know, during the assessment, that's when give the training pitch and
Okay. Yeah. Do
get
the
into
whole
the
spiel.
programming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And theirs is like, they got the in-body composition, you got the program already pulled up on the computer, just about
Yeah.
building
Yeah.
like a lot
Yeah.
of value because
Yeah.
uber expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
$120 a session, this, that,
Yeah.
and the other. So that gave me a lot of good experience um, as far as like the building value and, the organization and kind of like the front work as far as, taking on clients and retention and whatnot.
Right.
So that was pretty cool experience. And then also they put us through what was called their EFTI, like Equinox Fitness Training Institute. So all their trainers, they had different tiers of training, like
Uh,
tier 1, 2, and 3, and like 3X or something like that. I don't know. They kept changing it, but they made you do some continuing education when you were there.
that's good. I agree with that.
Mhm.
That's smart on their part. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, that was super cool because they're trying to develop some trainers, and so that was cool. So they made us go to different Equinox locations and have allotted times with different coaches, like 3-hour time, and it was basically like a kinesiology degree program, like upper division and whatnot, all thrown in a PowerPoint, condensed, and just taught to us. So we would go to this, and it'd be scheduled a few times a week. You do it for 2 months. You take in a little exam on it, and then they promote you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then your training rate goes up, and
Right. Because you're learning more, which I mean makes sense, dude. Like the more you grow as a coach, the more you learn. I think you should get paid more. Also, it's going based off experience too and your client retention. Like that says a lot about a coach. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're continuing to learn, you're continuing to put out content, or not even putting out content, read articles, even reading one article a day, even refreshing on some stuff, like goes a long way. You know,
100%.
like
Yeah,
as a
and
coach.
then just being present, right? It shows that like you have a certain presence of like wanting to learn and always looking for an opportunity to learn, and as well as coach, right?
Yeah.
So I think our clients really see that and respond to that pretty well. So that was really cool. And then it was kind of they subsidized it for me, so it was really cool. That was a really rewarding experience, although it was a bit of a struggle, and that's when, again, I mean, just God's timing, man. So like I was almost 2 years deep in Equinox, and I was kind of struggling because like the income was kind of up and down.
It's
It's
the name of
hard.
the game.
Name
It's
of the
the
game,
name of the
man.
game,
We're
dude.
salesmen, right?
Yeah.
So it's just that commission. So um, my retention was good, and the sales were I got really good at selling. At least to my ability, because I never would think of myself as like a salesman,
Yeah.
but you know how it is. So that was good, but it was just hard to like keep these people in the door and keep them working out and keep them consistent, because they were just executives and lawyers and MDs and just these
Business
entrepreneurs,
owners,
business owners.
CEOs,
Yeah, so
presidents.
you can sell a training package, but you're only collecting if you're training them and they're coming in. So that
Yeah.
was getting kind of difficult for me. And then Daniel hit me up, and we had kind of talked about this. I think I remember him coming over for World Cup. This had to have been like maybe sometime, I forget, it was like 2014, 2015, something like that. And we were hanging out, and he was kind of talking about, oh, I'm looking to start up my own gym. And, we kind of want to make it like maybe have like a ring in there and do some MMA, and then have some, definitely have like that personal training.
Yeah,
And it was kind of
that's
like, conglomerate of ideas
yeah.
at the time. And I was like, oh man, that sounds really cool. And it was really interesting kind of seeing it come into fruition. Like, years later, this had to have been uh, close to 2017, 2016, I think is when Daniel opened and Bruce opened Axioms Fitness
Yeah.
in that March, I believe. So he hit me up right before that and he's like, hey man, if you're looking somewhere else to train, like this is, in the area, if everything's come to fruition. So I went down there, I checked out the gym. We had like a kind of like a soft grand opening or something like that before the official one. And I loved it, and then I'm like, oh, cool. This guy's going to be my boss. I remember back all three of us back in
Dude,
the
at
day.
LA Fitness, that's where it started.
Yeah,
Not only that, it's down the street from your house.
correct.
So it's like all you have to do is just drive down freaking La Palma Avenue and you're here. Like you're there.
Perfect situation,
Yeah.
right? And then funny story, full circle, right? Ryan Stewart, Daniel ended up hiring him on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I told you that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So like that was a funny full circle. This guy who used to be our boss, now he's an employee of Daniel's and then a coworker of mine. So that was kind of funny. But yeah, it was just a way better situation, you don't have somebody breathing down your throat for projections and hitting numbers. And again, it was just within the loop.
Yeah, I think it's just like when you're becoming a coach, whoever's listening, just for like the viewers, I think it's like I said, going back, it's good to get your feet wet just because you need to go through shit with like failing, doing a sales pitch and hanging with the corporate standard. You need to get your feet wet going through 2 years of that or 3 years or whatever. I went through 4 years and I'm surprised I stuck that long. And then like I transferred out.
You're consistent.
Dude, I'm so loyal. Like I'm so loyal.
To a fault.
But you need to go through that to get your feet wet and just go through shit as a coach and just kind of experience it. Like it's good because they show you how to sell as a trainer. Their information may not be correct. I don't know what it is now because I haven't worked there in a long time. So, I mean, maybe they changed it, hopefully, because the information that they were giving the potential clients wasn't right at all. Like, not 1%, but it teaches you to how to sell, like how to sell yourself, know your worth. Like, hey, like, this is what it's going to take. And I think it's good as a coach. But like, once you get better, dude, you got to get out of there.
Yeah.
You don't want to stay there. I mean, and then that's what I did too. So in that process, you grow as a coach too. Like I think everybody kind of they gather information and then they figure out, hey, what works for me? I'm gonna take this and just make it my own little thing, and that's what I'm kind of gonna do.
Mm.
So like it's good that you went through that and I went through that too because we kind of know we're like, oh fuck, like I remember those memories.
Yeah. And it's tough to find like I think we were all just kind of trying to find our own like niche or our own style. I mean, a lot of us like nobody taught us how to do this, right? It was just like some of us didn't have a lot of mentors and like, how they say like, you never want to be the smartest person in the room. And I think it's important to always like put yourself in these places where you're maybe a little more vulnerable and now you have to learn more and kind of rise to the occasion and stuff like that. And I think it gets kind of tough and I don't know if this is just the fitness industry, but like it gets kind of tough because a lot of coaches feel like they kind of hit that ceiling or you just kind of get comfortable where things are at,
Yep.
and then it just becomes like your day in, day out. And like you said, and then you're not really learning anymore or even, having fun. Cause that's the number one, right?
Yeah, dude, like I've reached that point where, first of all, when we were young, almost every guy, and I can speak, like when you're like 21, 22, you think you're the shit. Like you think you know everything. It's funny, like when I see a picture of myself, I was like, that guy does not know jack shit. You know what I'm saying?
100%,
So it's like
yeah.
you always want to continue to learn and grow. Like when Instagram first came out, it was like what, 2010, 2011?
After maybe.
And then all these Instagram influencers came out. And even me, like I'll admit to this, I followed in the wrong direction because I'm like, oh shit, I want to be like these guys. I want to have a body like theirs. Like I want to be like them. So like I followed that wrong path and I would say the wrong shit to my clients when I was younger. Not now, don't worry. and then I would follow that and I'm like, oh shit, as I'm growing older, I figured out that was wrong. And then now like I'll change my direction. I'll follow guys like Instagram, like John Russin or
Mm,
Dr. John Russin or Sciat Fitness or just any like Renaissance periodization or like, Mike Israel, stuff like that. So I think uh we're just like you said, we don't have a mentor, so we try to find information anywhere possible, and we look towards the avenue where what looks good on paper. Like, hey, that guy looks good. He must be doing something right. Little do you know, he starves himself, takes a bunch of steroids, drinks fit tea, and
yeah.
just fucking, you know what I'm saying, and like sells products, and that's what he does. Whereas you have Dr. John Russin over here on the right side, and he's like, hey, no. Actually, here's what you're supposed to do. Maintenance calories, caloric deficit, caloric surplus. These all have a way of something to do with your body. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah. Back to the basics,
yeah,
like lower, like higher percentage stuff, that works and not getting caught up in all like I like to call it like the fluff, right? Like all the little extra stuff, the bells and whistles, the shit that looks cool on social media and the coaches. And there's just so much content out there. Like
yeah.
everybody is a fitness influencer, and anyone who has made a change in their body can make an Instagram page and do a before and after, and boom, and there it is.
Did you see my
right?
post? It was from so I follow this page called the PTDC, and it made a post. It's like this guy. It's like, oh, lost 5 pounds in a week. Next day, makes an Instagram account and starts charging people $250 a month for a nutrition plan. It was fucking hilarious. I was like, that's
Ding,
so
ding,
true.
ding.
Dude,
Yep.
that's so true in our industry. Like anybody thinks that they can do it. And it sucks because they don't even have to have the right credentials. They don't even have to have like a certification or anything. They
No.
could just make a page.
I mean, none of that's really like protected, right? Like
Yeah.
it's the credentials. I mean, there was people at LA Fitness doing like a weekend crash course in PT, and then they're working that next week.
I did
know?
that.
Yeah. Well, dude. Well, shit. Good thing you didn't stop there.
That.
Good thing you didn't stop.
Dude, I'd be dumb as rocks if I just stopped there. Holy shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you feel you're like, okay, so from the transition, just from working at LA Fitness to now, like how did you feel yourself like grow, get smarter, learn a lot more, especially with the people that you were working with?
Yeah, for sure. I think it kind of happens in like stages. Yeah. I mean, that's what you pick up on it as. I mean, of course it's happening like every day, like little victories here and there, and then just, gears turning and you figuring stuff out. But it was definitely in stages, but it certainly wasn't, this certification and that certification. It was a lot of like just the day in and day out grind and watching coaches that I really liked, whether it was like on social media or my coworkers and people that like stood out to me. And that's, I think, one thing I've always been pretty aware of is like looking for those little mentors, whether they know that they inspired me or not, just finding those people that are like, okay, well, this guy's doing something right here,
Right.
and vice versa. And that's kind of what I did, and then applied stuff into my own training. And then a lot of it is what you're doing as well, finding what works for you, what doesn't work for you. Maybe when we were 20, we were giving people all the same advice that we were doing. But nowadays, I'm not going to tell, this guy to do exactly what I'm doing program wise.
No, I was a dumbass when I was 21.
More volume, the better, man. Just tear that muscle,
Dude, let's bench press till your arms fall off.
Get everything firing.
What?
Yeah,
like, what?
Exactly. So, yeah, I think that was an important one is like try stuff out, see what works, and then go back to the drawing board and keep going.
Yeah. Because you train a baseball player, right? Like, what's that kid's name?
Britton Beeson. Yeah.
Dude, that guy's a beast.
Sophomore at Olu. Man, that kid's super strong. Yeah, he's getting strong, but his mentality is bulletproof, I mean, it was funny. He was telling me a joke. He was hanging out with his friends. They were lifting last week, and he was telling me like, oh, one of his friends like hooked him up with some girl, right? And they were kind of talking, and he was kind of excited about it. She's like a little Instagram model or whatever. And at
Instagram
what age?
model.
Yeah, right. At what age?
Yeah.
So he was all excited, talking to her, and he's like, his buddy, I I think his name was Trevor or something like that, is like, oh, hey, I bet, yeah, like, I bet you're thinking about her, when you're lifting right now. And he's like, no, man, I'm thinking about the MLB. He's
Dude,
like,
you got to.
so that's like his mindset is like every day he's training, he's thinking MLB, when he's sleeping, he's thinking MLB, like what he wants to do. And
How old is he?
16, he's only
Oh,
16,
dude,
man.
he's almost there.
Yeah.
My stepbrother, Ian, if you're listening, hi. Uh, Ian Rosso. So he's 17, and so my stepdad owns a gym out in Lake Elsinore. It's called True Sport. He is 17 and pitching like an 85, and he thinks the
Damn.
same way. So like when I'll go over on the weekend, I'm like, Ian, like we'll go to the gym. He'll do his warm up, and then he'll pitch for a good hour, and then he'll bat for like half an hour, and then he'll do like everything else, and then he'll go home, and he'll like I'll hear a loud noise. I'm like, Ian, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm playing MLB. I was like, okay, and then he'll go in his room. I'm like, Ian, what are you doing? I'm watching MLB. I'm like, what in the fuck?
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, it's their mindset, like, and I'm surprised too, because like they're younger, so you don't see a lot of that nowadays. Like, there's so many distractions that, like Britain or my stepbrother, there's very few that are. It's like drilled in their minds. Like, I'm only thinking about the MLB. And I think that's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely a rarity, but it gives me hope when I see the younger cats like that are,
Oh yeah,
in high school right now that are, I mean, I got a decade on some of these kids, and just seeing how in tune some of these kids are, and, despite everything that's going on. Cause, man, I think about myself having kids, and I'm like, man, there's going to be a lot of
change.
there's going to be a lot of change, a lot of weird conversations we're going to have and whatnot. But yeah, man, it's really good to see, I was going to ask you, what do you think of like speaking of like sports and training, like, what do you think about like, as far as sport specialization? Like, I feel like that's something that kind of gets, uh, hammered on like too much. And some
What do you
people
mean?
like, first of all, I think some parents put their kids in sports, in a certain sport, like really early on. And I feel like these kids, they kind of get out of touch with it by the time they do get to high school level, or they do get to that level where they really need to start up in the training.
I
And
I just
yeah.
think, and it sucks because it's true. First of all, like if you're a parent, and a lot of the parents put their kids in a sport that they didn't succeed at, that they
Mm,
weren't good enough, and they see their kid and they're like, they have hope, and they see that their kid is good at that sport, so they have them dive in very early. I mean, when you're a kid, you don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, you're barely wiping your ass and you're hitting a ball at like what, 60 miles an hour.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, if you're a parent, I don't agree with just forcing your kid into a sport. I mean, if he's good and he wants to try everything out, let him try everything out, and then ask him like, hey, what do you like better? What do you feel like doing? Like, it it burns out the kid, and you see so much talent, and then all of a sudden they're like, I just want to go to college. I don't
Yeah.
want to play sports, because they're so burnt out on their mom or dad breathing down their backs. They got baseball, and then their mom or dad signed them up for a strength coach because you have to work after practice. So they go to their strength coach 3 to 4 times a week. And it's not like, so like with Britton, it might be different. Like, he wants to do it, right? You have Britton, and then let's say you have Joe Schmo over here that's really good as well. He has the talent, but he doesn't want to do it because mom or dad said so.
Mm,
And I think that's what happens with sports. Like, the kids want to have to do it. Like, the parents just can't force them, just because the dad or the mom, whoever maybe, didn't succeed well, like, you can't do that. Like,
yeah.
I
It's the
fully
same
don't
thing, like
agree.
trying to live, your life vicariously through your kids, right?
Yeah.
It's that same thing. Like, for example, my mom was a national level sprinter and speed walker, actually.
What?
Yeah, speed walking. Have you seen that? It's like
No.
it's
Oh yeah,
that,
no, that's
Really?
crazy.
dude, that
Yeah,
It's a
that
sport?
shit is real.
it's a
So
sport. Yeah,
I think the
fuck?
stipulation there is like 2 feet must be on the ground at like the whole time. So you have to like roll your feet and walk a certain way. It's really weird. But anyway, she was like a national level sprinter, and like since she was like 4, she was running, right?
Okay.
And I think she actually first started out with like marathons and like cross country, that kind of stuff. Not marathons. Um, and like really early age. And she remembers, like, she used to tell me stories of like, her going to run with like the boys because like she was faster than all the girls. And then, she would get lost and then my grandparents would have to come pick her up. And she like a couple traumatic stories where she was just, like spent so many days practicing and practicing
Right.
you know, she did like really well, right? Going all over the country for meets and stuff. By the time she got to high school, no sports and just got in with the popular kids and got roped into high school and that whole thing. Even with me, I played Little League growing up. I think I told you probably, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years. And I didn't think once about playing baseball when I got to high school. Like I was so burnt out on
Yeah.
that.
I think you just get so burnt out of it, especially if you don't, like I said, going back on it, if you want to do it, do it. If you're good at it, dude, that's a plus. Like you'll make it. But if you don't want to do it and you get forced into it,
Mm.
that's a bad thing waiting to happen.
Yeah, I think about too, even like what's better for the body too, right? Like I think about like, man, what am I going to get my kids into when I have children, Lord willing, right? So I would try to expose them to as
Hey.
much, yeah, right. I would try to expose them to as much like things as possible, and like and like the sports that have maybe some good carryover to other stuff like gymnastics or soccer and of course martial arts, right? But I think that is just better for the body, because if you hammer on like a pitcher, right? You hammer in on that arm for, 16 years, man.
Not only that, like if you're a good pitcher and you throw 90-mile-an-hour fastballs, first of all, if you're a strength coach, overhead shit, don't do it. Like
Yeah.
or minimal. Or if you're doing it like landmine shit. Like when I train a couple of baseball players and it's like we're doing landmine, we're doing like I never do anything overhead because dude, after a while, especially if you're throwing for so long, that shoulder takes a beating. Not only that, but like if you're good and you're throwing like 90 miles an hour and you're 16 years old, your dad's gonna want to show off. So your dad's gonna be like, "Watch my son throw this ball.
Yep.
Hey Timmy, why don't you throw this ball and show Uncle Jerry what you can do?" And then he's like, "Do it again, do it again, do it
Next thing
again."
you know, he's showcasing his kid.
And it's like, okay, first of all, that's cool. Like, yeah, you're a proud dad, but at the same time, you are wearing out his fucking shoulder. Like,
Yeah,
that's
big
what you're
time.
doing.
Tommy John surgery,
Yeah.
rotator cuff surgery, super spinatus, whatever. But I think that's a thing too. And I always tell like like any of the athletes I've trained, like, like I'm your strength coach, right? So like, and that's the thing. That's kind of where I wanted to touch on with as far as like specialization too. Even with coaching, I think it's cool and all to think about specialization with strength training and training in general, but like you don't want to go too sport specific. Like if I'm training some kid, right, and he's practicing and he's throwing 6 days a week, like the best way to get better at throwing a ball is throwing a ball.
Yeah.
Not doing some cable drill on a Bosu ball single leg and doing some external internal rotate, some
Yep.
throwing patterns or doing some weird rotation. And that's, to me, that's just too sport specific. Like I believe in like, okay, we should train whatever planes of motion they're going to be using. So you think about a baseball player, like that's a rotational athlete, right? So we're going to be spending some time with rotation, anti-rotation, that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to give him a weighted bat and put an ankle strap on the cable with him and have him practice his swing, And you see that shit, dude. I swear.
That's some weird ass shit. That is funny. That's some
you-
Instagram shit.
It is. It's that Instagram coaching, So
Is that what you do with Britain? Basically like anti-rotation and stuff like that?
Yeah, we'll do a lot of anti-rotation, go into some rotational drills.
Do you guys work on a lot of like max velocity stuff too?
Yeah,
Or-
we do a lot of contrast training.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll do a lot of contrast training. So I'm big on that. Like, okay, well, let's train the energy systems like you're going to be using, and so the contrast training is really cool. So we can do some heavy strength specific work and immediately hit plyos after that. And I mean, we've seen the research on like contrast training and how it positively affects force velocity. And
Well, not only that, it's good to hit all aspects of the neuromuscular system. Like, right, you're hitting like a squat to a, um, uh, damn, I just blanked. Like a a jump.
Like a depth jump?
Yeah, like a depth jump.
Okay.
Lost my words. And then you're hitting like another thing. It's always good to hit all aspects of that, especially like if you're training a baseball player, a football player, or any type of athlete. Like they need that type of training. Their training is completely different to like an average
Mm.
person that walks in.
Yeah, and now we know that we can actually like slowly make changes to fiber type, right? Remember
Yep.
back then it was like, okay, you have certain composition of fiber types, for muscle fibers, and so you're going to be automatically predisposition to be better at endurance sports, power sports, whatever, just because that makeup. But now we know we can make those changes based on how we train. So our body's really responsive to that.
Yep.
I'm so interested in that shit. It's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. But yeah, so we do like some contrast training, especially along with like the strength work, because that pairs well, the plyometrics with that. And then we just do a lot of like hip and arm care, like, single leg, a lot of single leg RDL variations.
So
We're
more
really getting into the hip,
unilateral exercises.
Yep, a lot of
Okay.
unilateral stuff, especially for the accessories, and then a lot of landmine work. We don't go overhead a ton, but yeah, we'll do some rotational stuff. Face pulls with
Right.
real wide grips and external rotation bias and that kind of stuff. So yeah, I just think like work the energy system you're trying to use, and don't get too sport specific.
Right.
Get them strong as fuck.
Yeah. No, I think it helps them too. Like, I get what you're like saying as far as like the only way to throw a baseball and to get better at it is throw a baseball. That's right. But you also can, as a coach, make them stronger at that. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? Like, it's good because you get to see that progression from when they first walked in, and then you've been training them for 3 or 4 years, and then before you know it, Britain's getting calls from all over the place and he's in the MLB and he's like a big shot now and you're like, shit, like this kid's progression has changed in the last 4 or 5 year span and it's gone at an incline ever since.
Yeah.
So it's like it's always a good feeling to have too, especially when you're training somebody like that because you get to see them grow too.
Oh, and the
in that
potential
time.
goes
Yeah.
way up,
Oh, yeah.
because you can only do sports so much. I mean, it's like, right? Like, what did they say? Um, work, what is it? Work beats talent when talent don't work hard.
Yeah.
I just had a brain fart.
We're having brain farts today.
Dude, I know. That's like strike two.
Shit.
So yeah, that's all it is too, is like you're just increasing the potential. I mean, how is getting somebody strong as shit not going to carry over to any sport?
Right. Yeah.
So yeah.
Are you mostly like, is that your interest would be like sport specific? I know we're not doing sport specific, but
Mhm.
like, do you have more fun with that? Or do you have more fun with like, cause you train a variety of people. So it's like, do you think you have more fun with that? Or do you have more fun with everybody? Or like what's kind of your thing?
Yeah. So yeah, I've definitely trained a lot of different type of people. I think that's a good thing to have. Like, you don't want to niche yourself too much, I think, as a trainer. That's just been my thought, because like, again, you're just kind of limiting your options. Like if you're that guy who's only focused on, glutes and booty bands and that thing, then like that's going to be your niche. But
The booty influencer?
yeah, but I'm not like a marketer, right? So like if you might do really well down that avenue because like you have that niche and now people know you as that guy, like Brett Contreras, right? Like you're a glute guy. I mean, he's pretty functional and well-rounded, definitely not too specific, but you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
It takes a good deal of marketing to like put yourself in that avenue. So I've tried to be as well-rounded as I can, but I definitely have more fun training the athletes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because I just think more stuff starts to come into effect, like with the training program.
Yeah.
So general population is going to be general population. That you know how that training is going to be, right? It's usually some sort of full body split,
Push, pull, hinge, some type of step up,
squat,
like
carry,
yeah,
right?
you gotta do something.
Yeah. So and then the frequency is super important, because like, okay, if I'm trying to get, Grace, to be more functional, to be able to get up and down from her chair and walk up and down the stairs, we better be squatting and hinging, 2-3 times a week so she doesn't lose it. Right. Where with the athletes, like now the energy systems really come into play, and the programming comes into play a lot more, because now you're working around their practice schedule.
Yeah, you got to see what they're doing and kind of be on the same page as their coach, because they have like tons of coaches, because they get like we're only their strength coach. Like,
Yes.
they have agility coaches, throwing coaches, their overall coaches. They have and you're like, okay, what are you doing this week?
Yeah,
They're like,
exactly.
okay, we're gonna be doing this today, and then we'll see how you do on Wednesday, and then we'll catch up then.
Yeah, kind of get lost in the sauce. But again and again, that is a good, I think, an admirable quality as a coach as well, is like being able to think on the fly and make those minor adjustments.
Adjustments.
Because how many times have you had somebody come in and it's like, oh, well, I tweaked my neck like last night, or, oh, my back, I kind of bent down and I
Yep.
kind of threw it out, or the guy, oh, I didn't eat today,
Yep.
So we've all had to make those changes,
And
right?
it's funny when you say that, because for me, I'm very OCD oriented, where you see me with my clipboard and like my programs and stuff. Like,
100%.
so like I've had a couple of times where my clients like, I think I messed up my knee, or I think I messed up my hip, or my arm hurts, or I can't do upper body today. I'm like, well, there goes my program for today. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. So like,
Yes.
yeah, as a coach, you got to think on the fly. Like if you don't think on the fly, you better start trying, or you better get good at it, because you're gonna run into a lot of difficult situations like that. Like, what did Mike Tyson say? You'll have a plan until you get hit in the mouth, and then all
Yep.
shit's out the window. Like you could have a plan for somebody, and then they'll come in with like a fucking shit out of left field, and you're like, okay, so that's gone. Here's what we're gonna have to do now. So like as a coach, you have to be very versatile and think on your feet, and I think that's it's very important to do. You have to be quick, and if you're not, clients will catch on to it.
Oh, big time.
Well, especially if you're newer, I think it's harder as you're newer, because you kind of don't know. You're like you're like a deer in headlights. But like if someone came up to you or me and said like, "Hey, I broke my right arm. I'm getting surgery next week. We'll start the week after," which that won't happen. But I'm just saying, to throw that out there. Like, we know what to do. Like, we're like, okay, so we can't do that. There's no way we could do this. Let's do this, this, and this. When you come in, there's always a way. But I think you just need to go through a lot of those phases in your life where that happens to you, and you kind of get aware of that.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
So
And there's always a way. I mean, especially the hardcore people, right? Where they're injured, but they still want to train. They refuse not to train, right?
Yep.
So we've had those too. So um, you have to make it pain free.
Yep.
That's always been like a one thing I've gotten from clients is like, oh man, that was really good. Like whether they came into me with an injury already, or the wrist was bad, they couldn't put pressure on it, whatever, and they're like, oh man, like that didn't bug today, thanks. And I think that really goes a long way, because it shows you're not just like checked out, you're not just showing up and all right, we're gonna
Yeah.
all right, we're back squatting like
Yeah.
right every day. So yeah, I think that's something
So what's your
useful.
process when a client comes in and you've never met them, you don't know their medical history, and then they give you X, Y, and Z? Like, what do you try to figure out from a client standpoint when they come in and meet you? Like, what do you do
Mm,
as far as movement and movement patterns?
okay. Well, yeah, I mean, first thing, of course, it's that whole it's that whole sit down, right? That whole sit down, getting to know some of the exercise history, some of the injuries, if any, right? Any medical stuff, right? Because that's all going to matter when it comes to getting them out on the training floor. Um, but when it comes to movement, I mean, I'm usually doing like a modified functional movement screen. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So Equinox, they gave me that certification. I think it was taught by Matt Behrens. We did the FMS level 1. And you're familiar, right? How it has the kit and the whole thing.
Dude,
So we
that
don't have that. Yeah, it's pretty cool,
yeah,
right?
that's the FMS is a shit.
Yeah,
Like,
Gray Cook. Yeah,
yeah.
he's the man. So that's a really cool system, because and again, you don't it's useful for the coach, because you're able to categorize things into numbers, and categorize these different movement patterns, and where your client falls within that spectrum. So it's like, okay, well, if my client did really well on some active straight leg raise, we can instantly get into some like good hinging patterns. Probably, the likelihood of
Yeah.
that is really strong. We can start to load that pattern up because you're very good at it.
Yep.
But maybe the hurdle step they didn't do very well, so now we have to kind of regress some of the the single leg patterns and slowly build that up. So, but most of the time I'm just doing a modified one. I mean, again, we've been doing this long enough to where
You kind of know.
you kind of
You kind of
know.
know as a person walks in, like you're like, oh, okay. Okay, forward neck, like
Yeah.
sway shoulders. All right, I kind of know. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
your posture's a
Yep.
little hunched over.
By the way,
Okay,
we're always watching how people walk.
yeah, like it's funny. No, it's funny because like I might be weird. I don't know if other coaches do this, but like even when I'm out and I'm out in public, like if I'm waiting for like a coffee or something, I'll see how someone walks from like, I'm like, why do they walk like that? Why is it? And then I'll be like, okay, it can come from this. Okay, maybe how's their hips? How's their knees? How are their ankles? How
Yeah.
is it? How's everything moving as a whole? Like I'll think about that stuff, and I'm like, holy shit, I need to stop.
Yep.
Like you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like
Okay, this person's shoes not tied. Okay, I see the pronated ankles.
Yup.
Okay, I can see the little bit of valgus there. Okay, now I'm
Yup.
getting a little better picture. So that's what we're doing, right? 100% all the time as coaches. So when I get them on the floor, I'm doing just modified. I want to see their squat pattern. I want to see their hinge pattern. I want to see their push, their pull. Maybe do like a trunk stability, and then do some sort of like either like an inline hurdle or like a lunge step up kind of variation. Excuse me. And that's kind of the process. So after I do that, I mean, run through like an hour session or something like that, this modified movement screen. Then we just get to talking about like program design. So it's like, okay, well, are they seeing me 1, 2, 3, 4 times a week? How often? And, I know you handle people's programming even when they're not training with you, right? So, you have guys that maybe come and train with you once a week, but you're still handling the programming for the other 2 days.
Yep.
And again, most people, it's going to be usually, I'm going to recommend like a full body split, some, lower upper split for
Oh yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah, and it all depends on how many. Like people don't understand. If you come in 3 times a week, do not fucking hit chest, legs, and arms. Like you
Yeah.
have to hit your full body. It's more optimal. Like if you're coming in 3 to 4 times a week, it's way more optimal to hit a full body than to fucking split it up. Like
Yeah. If you want to progress.
yeah, not
right?
only that, like I train 6 times a week. So of course I can split up body parts because I'm able to do that. It gives me more leeway.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? But like, yeah, like 3 times a week, 2 times, even once, like
Yep.
you gotta hit your full body.
Yep. All the time. I'm big on that. I mean, you know me, man. You guys get on like, oh man, you could only train. Man, you only need to train once a week.
Well, it's all compound.
What'd you train twice this week, Brandon? Oh, you're doing good.
Fucking compound movements all day, dude.
Woo,
It's
yep.
so funny.
Absolutely. So, bang for your buck, right? That's the key. And then of course, that's where like nutrition is such a big deal. Like when
Oh.
you're not training and you're not able to train, like, I mean, we were just in lockdown for, 2.5 months or so. Everyone, the lockdown 5, lockdown 10, however
Yep.
much weight people put on, a lot of that's the nutrition too. Cause like when you can't train or when things happen or you get injured, you have to be able to maintain that,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
keep things going. So, I mean, for myself, I only try to train 3-4 days strength training a week. And I'm usually doing like an upper and lower
But
kind of
you're
gig.
you're hitting it hard. Like I see you squat, I see you deadlift, I see you bent over row, pull
Mm-hmm.
ups, like overhead pressing, some type of work. I'm like, okay, like I get it now. It's funny. I used to always give you shit, but now I'm like, oh, this motherfucker's smart. Okay, he's doing this. He may be only training 4 times a week, but
He's
very
being sneaky about it. He's being sneaky.
But at the same time, he's smart about it. And everyone's different. It depends on the individual.
And it's always changed, dude. Like my training has changed over the year. I mean, over the years, right? So like back in the day, it was the bodybuilding splits. It was like the, it was the where we all
Yeah.
started, right? It was like, oh damn, I'm scrawny. I got to put on some muscle mass,
Yeah.
and I'm doing these bodybuilding splits, and I'm worried about my aesthetics, and then kind of once I started getting the aesthetic that I wanted, and that kind of started getting a little more dull to me because it's like, not that you ever reach your end goal, but you just kind of get burnt out, and then.
Yeah.
I started getting more into the compound movements, like when Zach Shearer came by,
Yeah.
and we were training. We started training together a lot, and he was big on like Lane Norton stuff and like the
Lane
fat
Norton
training.
is the
Lane
shit,
Norton. So
dude.
like the fat training, the power
Yeah.
hypertrophy, adaptive training. I don't know. Sorry, Lane, if I messed your shit up. but we were doing like the fat training. So we would have like upper and lower power day and then like 3 like hypertrophy days. And it was like a 5-day split. And we were doing that. So naturally we were pushing the envelope on, squat, bench, deadlift, right?
Yep.
Because he was power lifter,
Yep.
Lane Norton, right? So
Motherfucker's strong,
strong
dude.
as shit, man. Strong as shit, world record holder. So I started getting a lot more into the compound stuff, seeing the value in that and just noticing like, damn, I'm getting strong really quick, And dude, I remember the first time I like would bend over row or deadlift, like my legs would tremble because my hamstrings were so tight. Like I would look like a Bambi trembling while doing a bent over row with 40-pound straight bar from LA Fitness. It was bad. So like I started getting stronger, and then um, at Equinox, my time there, I just started kind of refining that. I was really into I never competed in powerlifting, but I was like really into it. I was kind of telling myself I might compete, and I was just concerned about my big 3 and my numbers, right? And getting
Yeah.
strong. So
Yeah.
I was doing that, and then decided I'm like, man, I started looking at some of the numbers for the competitors at my weight bracket and this, that, and I was like, nope, I'm not powerlifting.
Yeah.
Like these guys are strong as
Yeah.
hell.
Yeah.
And then I started noticing that some of this stuff was kind of beating up my body. Like I was doing a lot of like, how Lane Norton does a lot of like low bar squat.
Yeah.
Like you're right.
Yep.
So the low bar
Yep.
squat, it's definitely more hip dominant as far as squatting goes. And I was doing a lot of the low bar and a lot of the conventional deadlift. I didn't sumo ever to this day. And so it was like a lot of hinge work. And I remember my hips were getting destroyed, dude. And I remember my buddy, good friend of mine from Equinox, Will Simpson.
Oh yeah, he's friends with BJ, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Will,
met him.
yeah,
That
Will
guy's
Simpson.
dope.
Yeah, he's from Memphis. Shout out
Yup.
Will. Dude,
That guy's funny.
an amazing coach. This dude don't sleep on this guy. He's an amazing coach. He's got his CSCS.
He's
He
smart
just got
as
his
shit.
masters.
Yeah,
He has his USAW. Yeah.
Did a guy named Dr. DMAC go and put on like seminars at Equinox?
I believe so. That name sounds familiar.
Because Dr. DMAC, it's funny how Orange County is such a small group. He's a sports chiropractor, but he is very big on like movement of the body. So um he would go over when I worked at No Limit, he would go over to No Limit a lot.
Mhm.
And then he would teach us shit. Like it would be just us 5 as trainers and him, and he'd be teaching us on like how to breathe, how to move your body, like the function of a squat, what you're supposed to do with this, what a client's supposed to feel with this. Like he's very big on that. And Will and him were best friends. I think I met Will at BJ's house, and Will texted DMAC.
What?
Yeah, Will texted DMAC.
Holy
Because I was like,
shit.
hey, I was like, you know this guy? And he's like, yeah. He's like, we program for each other. I think he used to I'm hoping it's Will. I don't know. We'll see. But Will used to program for Dr. DMAC, and DMAC used to program for Will.
Oh, it might be a different Will Maloney.
I have no idea.
Ah,
It might be a
okay. There's
different
another
guy.
good coach out of Sports Club Irvine Equinox. Yeah, Will Maloney. He was actually
He was just
I
smart
don't
as
know.
shit.
Yeah.
He does MMA. So I don't know which Will that is.
oh damn. This might be a third one.
Okay.
I don't
never
know.
mind. Never mind.
Anyways,
Scratch that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, that's crazy. So my buddy Will, him and I became real good friends, and he was USAW certified for weightlifting, right? Because he was an amateur Olympic weightlifter, and he ended up stopping because he broke. He was cleaning off of the blocks, and he actually broke the scaphoid muscle in his thumb,
Oh.
and broke it. Like he got like a clean break on it, and he didn't realize he broke. He's a tough son of a bitch, so he's just like, I'm good. And meanwhile, we were running like squat everyday programs. I think I just was talking about this.
Dude.
Yeah,
Fuck.
by it was Corey Gregory on Instagram, Corey Gregory Fitness. I forget, but he kind of coined this like squat everyday program, and it was a different squat variation every day. We would train 6 times a week, and we would start off and work up to a 1 rep max on a squat variation. So it'd be like low bar back squat one day, high bar back squat another day, high bar pause, low bar pause, front squat, pause, or something like that. And we'd work up to 1 rep max, and then you would hit hypertrophy work after that. So it'd be like, it'd be like leg chest, legs arms, legs shoulders, whatever. And we ran that program a couple times, and we went to Venice Beach to max out one day, at Gold's Venice.
No
Yeah,
way.
and he
That
was a
is
high
so
bar squatter from like Olympic weightlifting,
oh,
right?
shit,
So
okay.
he would high bar squat, strong as shit, way stronger than me. And but he decided to do the low bar squatting for this program because he wanted to see like just how much he could squat. Because usually low bar, the mechanics, people are usually a little bit stronger.
Yeah.
And I saw him squat 495 for 1 rep, and that was like raw.
Jesus.
So yeah, so he hit that, and then I hit the end of this program 365 low bar for 1 rep.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I only got footage of his squat. He didn't get footage of me, that fucker. Um, but yeah, that was a lot. That was the most I had ever squatted, and we got strong as hell. But I remember that's where I was going with this. I started getting like some hip pain, and I thought maybe like I had torn my labrum or something in my hip. Like it was just bad, like deep, like in my acetabulum, like deep hip socket pain. And I'm like, man, just something's not right here. And I just started kind of putting it together. Like it was the really heavy training. It was too much emphasis on like the hip dominant work. I wasn't really training the quads enough. So like front to back balance in the legs wasn't there as much.
You
And
gotta have that, dude.
yeah,
You
so
gotta have that.
so that's what I'm talking about as far as like kind of your style of training, changes through the years. And then um oh yeah, going back to the broken scaphoid. So um Will like took some time off and then got back into the weightlifting and didn't compete again, but he kind of showed me the ropes with the Olympic weightlifting, which super thankful for because I had never like been taught with any of that. So he was like teaching me, clean variations, snatches, how to warm up, and just getting me
Yeah.
on the PVC pipe
Yep.
and just working from there. Like, and I started really getting into the Olympic weightlifting because I saw like the skill acquisition. Like, oh man, like these guys are really strong, but they're also very athletic and it's a very skillful. It's not just like up, down, all
Yeah,
right, you're
yeah, yeah.
good, right? Not to hate on powerlifting. I mean, I love powerlifting, but again, it was just more of a linear.
You gotta do so much shit and everything has to connect at once because if it doesn't, you're fucked.
100%. So I just started falling in love with that and then just trying to push the envelope with my body. So I got more into like the high bar squatting and variations that was helping with Olympic weightlifting. And so then my squat patterns changed and
Yeah.
how I developed changed. So yeah, it's been crazy, man. It's
Yeah,
been
I
crazy.
I like it's kind of like the high bar squat with the low bar squat. It's the same thing as sumo deadlift versus conventional, right? It's like
Yeah.
the mechanics are different. I can't I well, I'm short. So sumo deadlifts for me are like the bar lifts up an inch. But like
Yeah.
conventional, I love hitting the hamstrings. Like I love like hinging all the way down, feeling my hamstrings coming all the way up, like locking the shit out of my glutes, and then just having control all the way down. And it just depends like on the individual as well,
Definitely.
you know?
Definitely.
Because I always see you squat. I always see you squat.
Always. I used to be, yeah, the deadlift used to be like my jam, and I never sumoed and then you start looking at the practicality of what you're doing, right? So like I started doing a lot more high bar and like really low depth on my squat. So I'm like,
Yep.
okay, I'm getting enough hip rotation on my squat variations. So like there's no reason for me to pull sumo. Like I'm just gonna pull conventional. And then when I started getting into the weightlifting, like no one pulls sumo. There's no, you're just doing clean grip deadlifts and like
Yep.
snatch grip
Yep.
deadlifts and those kind of
Yep.
variations to build it up. And again, I even thought like, oh man, I kind of want to compete in the Olympic weightlifting. And again, I started looking at the numbers and the
Bro.
stat. Dude, these guys are insane. Even that's just the Americans.
Yeah.
So I'm like, man, I am not doing this shit competitively because you start to see how you have to niche your body in a certain way to be very specialized in that sport. That's why like I didn't want to get into powerlifting because like I saw the injuries, I saw all the gear, the knee sleeves, the hand wraps, the this, and that wasn't really where I wanted to go, or at least that too deep. It's like
Well,
I just kind of touched on it,
well, that's
you
and
know?
I as a fitness industry, if you're into like Olympic weightlifting or you're a power lifter or you're a physique guy or a bodybuilder, like no matter what you're into, you're gonna have to fork in so much money in the like up front. And not only that, unless you're the top level guy, like what's that guy from Game of Thrones? What's that guy's name?
Oh, dude, I never
Dude,
watched.
that
Shit.
mountain guy. Fuck,
Oh,
Roscoe, can you look that up? The mountain guy from
Roscoe,
Game.
pull that shit up.
Pull that shit up, Roscoe. He's a Game
The
of Thrones
mountain.
guy. Yeah, the mountain.
That
he,
man.
He like unless you're that guy or you're a top level athlete, they'll pay you a shit ton because you have all these endorsements coming in, paying you millions of dollars. But like for the guys that are trying to get to that level, you got to put in so much money. Yeah, for the gear, because everybody fucking takes steroids at that type of level. Like you're
100%.
not unless you're like going to a competition where they drug test you and you have to be 100% natural. Like you have to put in what is his name? Greg.
Was that him?
Wait, what is that? What is his name?
Oh, that was a fictional character name.
Yeah, the mountain's a fiction. Gregor.
What's his name?
That's the fictional character name. Yeah.
So what's his real name? You can talk.
It's gonna
bug the shit out of me. I need to find his name.
face.
You can talk in the mic, Roscoe.
My friend.
He's known as the mountain. He actually is.
No, I know, but fuck, I'm trying to get that guy's name.
But dude, I can't pronounce that.
Let me see it.
What is it?
That's like the weirdest.
Oh, Hafthor Bjornsson. Yeah, shout out my Viking brethren. So Hafthor, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That fucking guy.
Jesus Christ. Like unless you're at that level to where sponsors are paying for your steroids and they're paying for your housing and car
Your
and
travel.
Yeah, like that shit you got to put in a lot of money, and a lot of times like kids like see that and they don't understand like, oh wait, I got to do this. I got to do that.
I need a real job.
Yeah, like
you know.
I need 2 jobs to pay for what I want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what some kids don't understand. Like, you have to put in so much shit and you have to do a lot of shit that you don't know that the athletes do behind closed doors.
Yes.
You know? So, like, unless you're that top level, like, and you're deadlifting 1,000 pounds, like, you got to go through a lot of shit.
You're only seeing the stuff that looks cool.
Yeah.
You know, you're only seeing that end result where, you know, old boy's pulling over 1,000 pounds off the floor. And
dude,
you're like,
I will
damn.
break my fucking back. I will break my fucking back.
And again, so like with the Olympic weightlifting is like all that, the overhead strength you need, catching these deep snatches, cleans. I was like, no, I'm not good enough, you know? And I don't want to, and I didn't really, part of it's how good you are, and then part of it's how much you're willing to put into it, right? And I wasn't willing to put in all the training that I knew was required because it's demanding. I mean, and hats off to these athletes who like really specialize in something and go all for it, because that takes a lot of grit and a lot of hard days. And that's where I was like, no, I don't really want to do that. But I really tried to learn the mechanics of all that and grew like a
base.
Base for it and appreciation for it. And then again, started playing with it in my programming. So like I'll do, for example, like I'll do just weightlifting variations. Like, you know, I'll do like some, like if it's an overhead day or I'm doing some pressing, you could do like a strict overhead press or like a heavy overhead press. And then if I'm doing some contrast training, I'll follow it up with some power jerks, just overhead for speed, and just find ways to kind of fit that into the equation.
Not only that, like you find it fun.
Oh,
you know, so like everyone's different. Like me, I'm always squatting on leg day. I'm always deadlifting, but I'm always trying to do both. So I'm always trying to do the strong shit plus the aesthetic shit. You know, I'm trying to fit everything in one, so I get like the best of both worlds kind of thing.
And you're developing all those energy systems, right? You're developing your power, you're developing your strength and absolute strength, you're developing that hypertrophy base, and then you're developing, you know, some muscle endurance by, you know, supersetting and throwing in some of the circuits. It's like when I started training BJJ, I had to change my training program too. You know, at least I thought it would be wise, right? To start throwing in more circuits. I was doing some contrast training too, but I was doing a little bit more circuits and pushing the intensity, because
you have to,
dude,
when you're at that level, like when you're training. Not only that, when you're working as a trainer, you put in long days. Plus, you got to work out. Plus, you got to go through jujitsu or whatever your hobby is at the end of the day too. So it's like you got to fit all that in and make it work. But I think it's good for it too. It's like you get strong as shit. You know, like I think if you're a martial artist or like any type of athlete, you need strength training. If you can get it, I would highly recommend it. Like you need it. You'll get so much benefit from it. You'll get strong as shit. Like what? If I were to compete like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'd be 127, 127 pounds,
which is wild.
Which is crazy. And I know I would be, I don't know how good I would be, but I know I would be at least one of the strongest in my weight class because of the shit that I do.
Oh, huge, incredible advantage. I mean, that would be.
You know what I'm saying? Because you see like these jujitsu guys, yeah, they're good, but what if you go against a guy that's as good as you, but is fucking stronger than you? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like he has that much more of an advantage. So I think that any type of athlete, from a Brazilian jiu-jitsu to wrestling to a boxer to a golfer or a baseball player, like you need to have some type of strength training. You know, like it'll only just advance you that much more.
Yeah, it's a no factor. I mean, it's a necessary part of the game. You know, everyone's doing it at this point.
So
at least the people who are.
You've been training 8 years now.
Myself.
Yeah.
Well, myself, I guess I've been training since I was 15, so a decade about.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
No, but like you training clients.
Oh, yeah. So I've been doing that, 8 years now, which is crazy.
That's insane, dude. It's crazy how time flies by, and then you look back, and you're like, damn, like I'm learning. Like, you know, like I look back a year from now, I'm like, holy shit, like I've learned so much more in a year.
Yeah, and you thought you had it in the bag at 21,
dude.
You know?
Well, yeah, that's pure ego though. You think like you're the shit at 21, and then I look back, I'm like, dude, you don't know shit. Like you have no idea what's coming. Like it's crazy. So what's your plan now? Like what's gonna go on for you now?
Well, moving forward, man. I'm actually thinking about joining the Air Force. So
we were talking
about that last week.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm at a point in my life now where like I've gone into the fitness and I've been loving it I've been doing it for 8 years now, super consistent, you know, putting a couple years at each job I was at. And I'm just looking for a change, and I'm trying to just kind of set myself up for the future, you know? So it's definitely possible to make the training work as a career. I mean, there's a lot of people out there doing it. I just know myself. Like,
when did this start? Like, when did you have a conversation with yourself or someone else? You're like, oh, I'm gonna go this way. I'm gonna not train anymore. I'm kind of gonna go in this route.
It's weird because like you think you're gonna get to an age and it's gonna happen, or a certain moment where it's gonna happen, but it just happened. It just unfolded that way, right? So like I see things changing with my family. You know, I see that everyone's out kind of doing their own thing. You know, we're all getting older, right? I got 2 older brothers. They're kind of getting older. One of my brothers has his daughter now that he's raising, you know, little Rowan. Yeah, Brock. So, you know, she's so beautiful. But, he's moving into that stage of his life, and we're all just getting older. You know, I see my grandparents, getting a little bit older, and I'm just trying to get out of their hair a little bit, and do what I have to do, man. Cause, we don't really get to choose the cards we're dealt, we all get dealt a different hand, right? And we just have to make the most of it. So with me, I don't have a ton of, family support per se, but, I've had a lot of good mentors and a lot of people that kind of steer me in the right direction. And I think it's just the right move for me, right now. I know the next like 5 years at least or so, I'm going to be, looking for a career, looking to stay busy, looking to, start a family, that kind of stuff. It's weird to think. It's weird to say that.
It's crazy. Like the older you get, because we're at a point now where I'm 28. I'm almost 30, even though I look like I'm 20 still. Where it's like you think about that shit. Like I think about my grandparents all the time, and I'm like, fuck, like they're not gonna be around forever. Like you gotta, like it woke me up too. It's like, hey, you gotta think about what you're gonna do. You gotta fix your shit, and you gotta you gotta hustle.
Family.
Yeah, you gotta take care of them. You know, like you gotta do your shit and be on top of it, because if you're not, if something happens, you're fucked. So it's crazy to think about that. So what's the process as far as like the Air Force? Like how long do you think?
Well, I just went to talk to a recruiter last Tuesday. I went into the recruiting office in Brea, And
What made you decide to do that though?
just wanting like a change of direction, like I want to travel, I want to gain more skills too, like,
Right.
and um I've always been pretty like routine oriented and, and craving that discipline. So I just think I think it's a good move for me. You know what
Good.
I'm saying? To just kind of recenter and again take care of those things I need to do, accomplish the goals I want to accomplish in these next 5, 10 years. So um yeah, man, I'm excited. So the process, I'm going in next Tuesday to get my information processed in that, and then it's just a matter of taking the ASVAB, right, which is the kind of qualification test, to see,
Hmm.
they look at different subjects and kind of see which jobs, uh, are right for you and what you qualify for.
Okay.
So I'm going to go do that, and then from there, pick what job I want. I already have a couple in mind, and then um, see what's available, right? And then I might have to wait, be picky on a job I want. They might want to push me into another job that they have more readily available.
So that process is like a year then, right? Like it's gonna take you a year, and then what happens? Like, do you go to boot camp or?
Boot camp from then, yeah,
Oh
yeah,
shit.
yeah, dude, crazy, right? Crazy to think about
That is
at
crazy.
25 too, But I'm kind of glad I didn't go in. That was definitely an option when I was 17, 18, getting out of high school, but I
Mhm.
was not ready. Like I was mentally, I wasn't ready. I just wasn't, it wasn't even on the radar, for me. And I'm glad I didn't do it because now I'm at 25. I know a lot more like what I want out of life. So I know my focus is going to be there, you know. Um, but we'll see how long it takes
What
timeline
what is
wise,
what does Jenna think about it?
Oh, she's super supportive.
That's good.
Yeah. I mean, she was gonna go
I remember
she
that.
was in our
Yeah,
OTC,
yeah, yeah.
right?
I remember
So
you were telling me that.
yeah, so that's when her and I first started dating. She was in ROTC. She was going down to March Air Reserve Base, like I think like 2 times a week,
Uh-huh.
and putting in time there, making a
Okay.
lot of good friends, and like having a great time. She loved it, and she got medically disqualified because of some surgeries she had on her foot
Oh
and back when she
shit.
played soccer in high school,
Okay.
and it ended up being a problem, and she had to appeal for it, and I think she um, talked to somebody higher up, and then you just it just didn't work out, and meanwhile she was in school, so now she's focusing on more on school and finishing up getting her sociology degree. Um, she just had been pursuing sociology,
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily want to get into that field, but she's just been pursuing that, and that's what she's going for right now. But yeah, she's super supportive. She's even thought about commissioning as an officer after she finishes
Oh shit.
college.
That's
Yeah, because that
cool.
was the original plan. Like that was her like 10-year plan. Like I'm gonna uh, join ROTC, go to school, commission as an officer, put in, a decade, whatever, make a career out of it, and then get out. So, we'll see where it goes from there. She might just decide to teach, go
Yeah.
for a master's, get into another field. She's even talked about doing like forensics, and
Damn.
she applied for an internship at the as a coroner position for the OC sheriffs,
Yeah.
and she didn't actually get in for the internship, coronavirus and all that. But yeah, so we'll just see. It's kind of some stuff you kind of have to leave up in the air.
Well, yeah. Well, we're young enough to where. Well, you guys are. I don't know. Yeah, I'm getting older. But you're young enough to where it's like you kind of know where to go, but shit can happen because like, what is it? I think the average is the student average of a college student changes their degrees 3 to 4 times before they actually find the right one. They just go into college like, okay, I'm gonna do
There we
this,
go.
and then they're on a 180 spin of the totally opposite thing that they're gonna do. So I mean, you're young, just play with kind of what you want to do and go from there. You can kind of go in any avenue that interests you,
Yeah.
and you've always, since I've known you, you've always had a good head on your shoulders. Like you and Jenna, you guys both have a good head on your shoulders. I think you guys will be fine. Just like stay focused, stay grounded. As long as you be consistent about it and you're constantly driving toward that, dude, I think like you'll be fine.
Heck
You'll
yeah.
be you'll you'll be fine, dude. Since I've
Appreciate that.
known you, like you've had a level head. Like I think I'm the more immature one.
Well, I've known you when you're. I've known many sides of you,
dude.
For sure, man.
When I was a kid, fuck, those were dark times. Those were dark times. I thought I knew everything. I thought it was the shit, but like everybody needs to get checked. Everybody needs like a change, you know, like there something happened to where I'm like, I cannot act this way. I cannot be this way. Like I need to change. You know, some people go through that. Some people don't, you know, some people don't grow up.
I think you got to stay busy, man. You got to stay busy with something. I mean, I was one of those people, I never knew what I wanted to be when I grew up. Like, wasn't an astronaut, wasn't a fireman, wasn't a nothing, right?
Yeah.
It was always, I don't know. I mean, middle school, you name it, I had no clue. And then I just kind of fell into the fitness. I was working part-time jobs. I was bussing tables, doing what I had to do. But I got into the fitness and
I remember when you worked at Polly's Pies.
Yeah.
Dude, Polly's Pies. Polly's Pies.
Yes,
That was crazy.
Oh man, dude, the amount of times I called in sick there.
That's so funny.
You know, crazy. So I was doing that and then just fell into the fitness because again, I worked at the juice bar. I was into fitness. I took it upon myself to get my certs and set myself up for that. And then, here we are 8 years later. I paid my dues with it, you know, and
you're a smart motherfucker, man. You're
Thanks,
young,
man.
you're smart, you know, like it's insane. Like me, everybody goes their own route. Like, and I've seen that, you know, like people in the fitness industry go a different route and everyone's different, you know, just whatever makes you happy. Like me, I gotta stick to this. Like I'm gonna make this work some way or somehow. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has their way. I just hope I continue to grow as a person and nothing bad really ever happens to where it pushes me away. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, but you like, dude, like do whatever makes you happy. Like Air Force, like you're smart. You're smart enough to where you can go and do good at anything you want to do. You know, like since I've known you, have a level head. You know, whatever comes in your way, like you got it. You know what I'm saying? So I wish you the best of luck on your career journey and like on your career path. Like it probably is really exciting. And on the same time, like, are you a little scared?
Yeah, I mean it's nerve-wracking, right? It's a little bit.
Because it's different. Like
well,
you're like,
yeah, I'm
what
so
the fuck?
consistent and again, I never really saw myself doing it, but again, at this age and where I'm at now it seems like a good idea, and I think it's the right move. And it's not like you're losing anything. I mean, I never had that approach where I'm like, oh no, like I'm losing this like fitness career and I'm losing everything and I'm uprooting. Like a lot of people kind of get that existential crisis mode where they switch careers or the people who get their degree and they can't find a job because they have no experience, right? So I don't really have any of that or have those thoughts because I'm like, okay, well, the fitness is something that doesn't leave me. This is going to serve me the rest of my life. You know, I can still coach people day in and day out, right? I mean, whether I'm getting paid for it or not, it's still a skill. And that's why, again, even like the Air Force
good at it.
sounds intriguing. Yeah, because like I just want to acquire more skills and get better at that. And, you know, whether I'm helping myself out or helping somebody else out.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, hey man, best of luck on your journey. I wish you the best. I know you're gonna do great things. Like you're a smart kid. Like you're young. You got a good head on your shoulders. You're consistent. Like you're driven. You're goal oriented. So, I hope that works out for you in the future. And you know, I appreciate you coming on the show and talking to me, man.
Likewise, man. I already know you're going to do well. You're one of my mentors, man.
What?
You're one of my mentors.
What?
Yeah, man.
What?
I've seen you change a lot, man. I've seen you change a lot these years. And, and you know, I can only say likewise.
I need more changing.
That's the attitude, right?
Yeah, exactly. Continue to learn. Honestly, like continue to learn. That's it. Be a sponge. Sir. Continue to learn, whether it's educational or from a mentor, like from a perspective point. Like you got to learn.
Appreciate that.
All right. On that note, see you guys later. Thanks, Brendan.
Thanks for having me on, man.